Hi, everybody. It's Chris here, and welcome to our new series, which is called Beyond the Macro Recorder. So let's get straight to it. Should you watch this series? Well, this series is for a specific group of people. So this is somebody who has recorded some code using the macro recorder to get some kind of job done in Excel. And over the years, I've seen people use this for many things, but some things that come to mind for sorting data at the click of a button, so you don't have to go through that sort dialog box, for filtering data so you don't have to go through all of the filters, for copying the data to somewhere else in the spreadsheet, though that's a bit more advanced. But they've got the macro recorder started, you've got the codes, and you're managing to get a job done. But as you've felt the power of VBA, it's raised as many questions as answers, because you begin to appreciate the possibilities. And then you say things like, well, if I can do this, couldn't I do that as well? If I could sort data on one sheet, couldn't I sort data on multiple sheets? If I can sort data A to Z, couldn't I sort it Z to A? So this is the thing with VBA. I still feel it today. The more and more you do, the greater your appreciation of the possibilities, and you just keep wanting to learn more. So if you're using the macro recorder, you want to take your Excel skills to the next level, your VBA skills to the next level specifically, this video is for you. And I've got it on your graphic here. It's a 4-video mini course for people who want to move beyond the macro recorder. So we've got 4 videos, and I'm going to take you through a summary of this course. We're going to go through the videos quickly one by one. Firstly, in this video, we're going to get into the macro recorder and do that very typical activity that a lot of professionals out there are doing. They're recording something with the macro recorder. We're going to do that first in this video. This video isn't represented on this graphic. So 4 videos to come. So the specific task we're going to deal with is sorting a data set. This is probably the number one purpose I see people using the macro recorder for. They don't want to go through all of that sort dialog box, so they record some code to do it. Fantastic. But what if the data set changes in size? Almost all data sets out there are changing in size these days. So if you're sorting a data set and then subsequently some rows are added to the bottom or some rows are removed, we still want to be sure that our code's going to work. How do we do that? We can do that with VBA using what we call position control or dynamic position control. This is what we're going to do in the first session. And in order to do this, to have a button we can click that's going to sort a data set of any size, regardless of the number of rows, we need to do a few things. And I've got our learning outcomes listed over here on the right. We need to be able to declare a variable. We're going to cover that in the first session. We're going to do that through all of the sessions. And then we're going to do this really cool, powerful piece of syntax, which is end Excel down or end Excel up. And we'll talk about the pros and cons of each and which one's best for you. And that's a dynamic piece of code that goes to the end of the data set. If we can get to the end of the data set, then what can we do? We can define a changing data set and sort it. What else are we going to do in this session? The learning outcomes. We're going to store a value into a variable. What's a variable in Excel? I won't do the lecture now, don't worry, but it's just a place to store some information. And in this case, we're going to store a piece of text that helps us dynamically define our data range. Exciting stuff. And finally, we're going to talk about concatenation, which is just a computer programming word for joining together. Okay, so an essential computer programming skill. So in the first session, you should have a button that you can click that's going to sort a data set of any size. How cool is that? Moving beyond the macro recorder. Session 2, what are we going to do? We're going to sort multiple sheets in a file. So you sorted one data set, but in your job, you have to sort multiple data sets in a file. Now, I'm not suggesting you should fragment your data across sheets. If possible, you should have it all consolidated in one place, but often that's just the way it comes in. So how would we do that? Well, it allows us to learn the most powerful construct in Excel VBA, which is a loop. When do we use a loop? We use a loop when we want to repeat a task, repeat a set of actions. For example, if you want to do something to each data set in the file, each worksheet in the file, and you can see we've got 3 data sets in our file to simulate this. So we've got our beginner tutorial loops in Excel VBA. What are the learning outcomes going to be? 3 for this session. We're going to use a for each loop There's 3 loop types in Excel VBA: for each loops, for next loops, and do until loops. Do you need to know all 3? Absolutely not. With a for each loop, you'll be able to get 99.9% of jobs done. And what specifically are we going to do with this for each loop? We're going to loop through the worksheets in the workbook, and specifically, we're going to sort the data sets on each workbook. And we're going to talk about and learn how to reference sheets remotely, what we call a remote referencing technique, as opposed to a direct referencing technique. So direct referencing means you actually select the sheets. So we'd say worksheets data1.select in the code. We don't want to do that. We want to work remotely without selecting the sheet, just getting something done without actually selecting that sheet. That's more efficient. And that's a key skill, to move beyond the macro recorder. Right, moving on to session 3. So you want to do a different kind of sort rather than sorting A to Z, which is what we call, I always mix up ascending and descending. It's one of those two. You want to do the other one. A very common, logical thing that you might want to do. But how do you get it done? Well, here we've got the concept of choice, a decision. We want to go one way or the other. We want to give the user the choice of how they do the sorting here. So what's going to help us here in VBA? What we call a conditional statement. So you might have seen those if statements in computer coding, or specifically in Excel VBA. If takes the code one of 2 ways. If the user wants to sort A to Z, go that way. If the user wants to sort Z to A, go that way. Simple logic. We're going to translate that into VBA in just one simple learning outcome, which is being able to use a basic if, else, end if. And you can see the structure there. If something's happening, we're going to do this part of code before the else. If it's not happening, we're going to do the part of code after the else. That concept of conditionality and if. So session 3, moving beyond the macro recorder. And finally, sorting by different columns. Again, a typical thing you want to do. This time, we don't want to sort by the home team column. We want to sort by the away team column. We actually want to sort by the gates. We want to know the games that had the most people come to them. That kind of question, you're going to need a different macro, and you might be tempted to go and record another macro. The truth is, you don't need a different macro. You just need a macro that's more flexible and powerful. How are we going to do this? We're getting a little bit fancy. Just a little bit fancy. In the 4th video of the series, we're going to look at having different buttons. So one button to sort by this column, one button to sort by that column. And then the buttons, they're going to allow VBA to understand which column to sort by, but they're not going to trigger different macros. It's all going to go to the same macro. We're going to use the power of VBA to get Excel sorting by the right column via VBA. So 4 learning outcomes for this session. We're going to talk about making buttons, positioning them, and naming them. We're going to use a lookup table for this. So we're going to build a little table in the file so that Excel knows what to do. Don't worry if this doesn't make sense. It will all come together later. We're going to use a powerful technique called application.worksheet function. So VBA can actually access worksheet formulae from the VBA editor. How cool is that? I'm always using VBA, VLOOKUP via application.worksheet function. And then time permitting, we'll look at creating a more sophisticated conditional statement with select case. So that's what we've got coming up in our 4 videos, but we do have a bonus video which is about placing the buttons on other sheets in the file. So we're going to have some buttons to do that sorting. What if we wanted to replicate those on other sheets in the file? We don't want to do that manually. That's a bonus video. That's only on the website. So to access the resources relating to this mini course, I understand if you don't want to give up your email, you can do the course without accessing the resources. It's just your experience won't be quite as rich and effective. But if you want to get the download files, you want to access the bonus content, including this additional video, you just click the link below this video. It'll take you to the website. It's absolutely free. You just got to put your email in and you will get access to these resources. Now, in return for that, I'm going to send you an email, a promotional email about our fantastic Members Monday community. And the truth is, on YouTube these days, I don't do much long form content because it's very difficult to have a channel where you do 10-minute videos and long form content, certainly at this stage in the channel's growth. So where does that happen? All happens in our members community. It's been going 3 years now, Members Monday. When you join, you get a library, access to a library of over 120 hours of content, something like that. It's all indexed and organized in our unique content navigator tool. So you can choose how you learn the content. You get 2 live sessions with me a month. You get access to a magnificent member forum where you can share your wins, get help quickly, interact with me. It's the best way to guarantee long-term success in your Excel VBA learning by building a community around your learning. That's what I had when I first learned Excel VBA. I had a community of people around me because I learned it in a university environment. And that's the mission of Members Monday, to create that university environment, university experience for a fraction of the cost. So that's it. That is Beyond the Macro Recorder. The videos are coming very soon. And the best way to know when the videos are out is to be on the mailing list. You can go to the website and get a free blog membership. That means I'll email you as soon as the videos are out. Okay, so finally in this video, let's get this series started by actually doing something with the macro recorder, generating the code that we're then going to manipulate and get it working for us, take it to the next level. So hopefully you're familiar with this. And if you've never used the macro recorder before, and if you've never done VBA before, you'll be better off following one of our absolute beginner videos. If you're a very good learner, you might be okay in this series. I'd recommend one of our absolute beginner videos. I'll put a link in the description below. If it's not there, just comment and I'll point you in the right place. Right, so let's say our data is currently sorted by match day. So let's go ahead and say we want to sort this data by home team. So as always, we're starting with a clear concept. That's what we're trying to do. Actually speak it out loud, write it down so it's absolutely clear conceptually in your head what we're trying to do. So make sure you got the developer tab visible. I'm not going to demonstrate that in this series. Go to one of our absolute beginner series. If you'd like to know how to do that, you can change it in Excel settings. Going to go to record macro. Excel shows me the record macro dialog box. What should we call macros? Well, we should give them informative names. So something like sort underscore data, it describes what the macro is doing. When we're naming macros, we can only have one word. So we do need the underscore there. Then we can just hit OK. Now take the time to notice that we are recording code now. You can see in the bottom left, we've got a stop symbol, which tells us a macro is currently recording. And then up here, the icon that was previously record macro is now stop recording. So I think it should be a bit more noticeable. You know, Excel should make it really clear that we're recording a macro, but we've just got to look out for that. Right, I'm going to select all the data. I'm on the Windows PC, hold down the Control-Shift key, Control-Shift right, Control-Shift down. You can do that manually by clicking and holding on the mouse. And then data, we're going to go to sort, and now we can choose what we want to sort by. So I'm going to go for home team, A to Z. Seems to do the job. Going to hit OK. And we've got Beagle there. And I know, being a long-term fan of the Doggy Football League, they are at the top of the league alphabetically, although not in terms of performance. We'll go into the history of the Doggy Football League one day, perhaps. Good. So that's all we want to do. So because we're recording a macro, we've now got to remember to stop recording the macro. So I'm just going to go ahead, hit stop recording. You can see our record macro icon has returned. So we know we're no longer recording a macro. So what Excel does, it takes all of those actions, and it's fairly simple what we did. So just one action, really, sorting the data. But whatever you do, it's going to take those actions and translate them into VBA. This, for me, is why VBA is one of the best, probably the best computer programming language to learn, because you can generate your own code easily using the macro recorder and then take it from there. So it gives us something like this. Okay, this is our recorded code. I'm just going to undo what I did there. So this is the code. This is the code we're going to use in this series Beyond the Macro Recorder. I can now run this code, of course, but it's only going to do that exact thing. So some of the limitations, the data range is hard-coded. So if we add more data, is it going to be sorted? I'm not absolutely sure. Probably not. Other problems we might have, what if we wanted to apply this to a different sheet in the file? The sheet name is hard-coded, what we call hard-coded. So we'd actually have to manually change the name of the sheet there. We don't want to do that. Other things we might want to do, we might want to sort data on multiple sheets. We might want to be able to decide what range we actually use to sort by as well. You can see, well, that's all of the sort data, but the range that's being used to sort the data is column B. What if we want to sort by column C or another column? So all of these things we're going to cover in our series beyond the macro recorder. Video 1 will be out very soon. If it's not out already, I'll see you there.